Matthias, am I pronouncing your name correctly?
The correct pronunciation would be Matthias.
Oh, Matthias. Okay, all right. Cool.
Let me just quickly check because I have an echo, I think. Okay.
Seems fine.
So from my views, all the is streaming now. So do you want me to just start the webinar on Zoom already, or just wait until 3 o'clock?
What do you think, Frank?
Yeah, we can get started. Can we just chit chat a bit until you officially do the opening? Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll wait 2:58 and then I'll just click the start webinar.
You give us the green light.
Yeah.
So how is at the moment the situation in the Philippines, Matthias?
It seems to be quite calm at the moment, not really much problems. Let me just switch on my aircon again. It switches off by itself, and this room is a bit hot otherwise. Hang on.
Frank, do you have a batik shirt as well?
I do. I even have baju Melayus, a cabinet full. Yes, with everything.
You guys should have.
Okay, back again.
I was just telling Frank that you both should have, coordinated to wear batik shirt together. That would be great, and because our session is called Teh Tarik session, right?
Yes, that's actually true. Yeah. Okay.
Matthias, do you know what's a Teh Tarik? Have you had it before?
Sure. But I now live in the Philippines, so Teh Tarik kurang manis, please.
Wow.
Exactly.
I'll click the start webinar, and then we'll just wait for attendees to come in the Zoom, and then at 3 o'clock you can start the session. Yeah, Priya?
Yeah, sure. All right. Thank you very much, Ed.
It's actually a pity, if you look around the city, see all the Starbucks and the old towns and all the other franchises pop up, and all these traditional Teh Tarik places and Kopi Tarik places slowly disappearing. It's a pity.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, in the end, to me, it's part of the Malaysian culture. How sad would it be if we cannot do this anymore after the next 10 or 15 years?
Well, but I think first, as a country, we have to overcome the pandemic first.
Yes,
so
true.
All the business can stay afloat, right? So yeah.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah.
Okay, about to start in 1 more minute.
Okay.
Oh, we see a few attendees coming in on Zoom.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. We're just waiting till 3 to get started, yeah? All right. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us with our Teh Tarik session with ProperLy. I'm Priya. I'm your host for today. And today we have Frank from ProperLy. He's the CEO of ProperLy. And Matthias, who sits on the advisory board for ProperLy. You can see him here in his beautiful green batik. So ProperLy is a service-oriented company delivering customer service with passion, with technology as the driving force. But of course, today we have both the shareholders of ProperLy here to share more about ProperLy. So maybe Matthias, in your own words, Could you tell us a bit more about ProperLy?
Yeah, it reminds me of the days when I lived in Mount Kiara in Malaysia. Now I live in the Philippines. So unfortunately, I don't have Teh Tarik with me, but I still remember the days of Teh Tarik kurang manis. Yeah, that was my philosophy. I didn't want to be killed by the sugar overload. But, you know, as a resident staying in a condo in Mount Kiara, you don't actually know what's going on. All the information is somewhere hidden in a pile of paper in the management office. And you have to go down there and knock on the door, hope that somebody is there to actually find out what's going on and to do a booking and to check on whether any repairs that you have identified that need to be addressed, or why did they chop down that tree the other day? You know, especially for me as orang hijau in the days of Malaysia, you know, I didn't really like to see the trees being chopped down, but what to do, lah, sometimes it happens. But you know, we live in a digital age, and all of this from a end user perspective, the person who owns the condo unit, plus as well from a developer perspective, from an investor perspective. Wouldn't it be nice if you have everything on your fingertips, on your handheld app, and you can do it there remotely, efficiently, and you can use the data about issues like defects to identify root causes? Because for a developer, it should make him much more successful with their brand reputation if they can deliver better and improved condos that don't have the water leaking of the condo previously. Why did the water leak? Yeah, the bitumen flexible waterproofing that we used on the roof didn't last very long because it wasn't UV resistant. So we need to do something about it. But all that information gets lost because it's not aggregated, it's not centralized. And for me, as a sustainability, ESG, and green guy, you know, this is where we are going to potentially win the battle about climate change in our buildings. The building and construction industry contributes 40% to the worldwide carbon dioxide emissions, and as well the materials, the waste that we are generating. Wouldn't it be nice if we have a system, an app, a centralized server where we can drive continual improvement of environmental and sustainability performance in our community by looking at, you know, how can we improve our energy efficiency? Oh, you know, if I give my consent for certain data and I see there is somebody in my condo that is like super good at saving electricity. Like when I was living in Mount Kiara, I had an electricity bill of 30 ringgit a month. My landlady called me up. Hey, Matthias, never at home? What's going on? Always on holiday? Because she was getting the electricity bill, and the British expat who used to live there before, his bill was 500, 600 ringgit average a month. Wow. My first bill was 31 ringgit, 33 and 29 ringgit. So she was kind of totally confused. So I told her, Rowena, don't you remember? I'm the orang hijau, right? So, but I was able to make it happen in that condo in Mount Kiara, but maybe other residents would have liked to learn from me why I was able to cut it down by so much. Okay, those were my bachelor days. I have to admit that. Now, as a family man, my electricity bill here in the Philippines is a lot higher than that. But we need to learn from one another. We need to share tips. Wouldn't it be nice for, you know, if you own several units in a condo, if you are as well a property developer and you can show that your green building design, which has maybe cost you a little bit more because you have insulated the walls that are facing the afternoon sun, or you have used a different material, or you have used a roof that is actually like the kampung house was, made from a material that doesn't absorb the heat and then pass it on. You know, the kampung house was perfect in Malaysia because it was providing a cool environment at night. Now we have those stupid homes that absorb the heat in the afternoon, store it in the concrete of the wall, and release it at night. So a developer who makes a difference and delivers that, and he can then say, here's the evidence. My residents, in average, have 40 to 50% lower electricity bill because I'm delivering them a home that's statistically proven is so insulated and passively cooling that they can comfortably live healthily without the need to switch on the aircon all the time. So we need to use data to measure, manage, optimize, improve from all the perspective of the different stakeholders that are involved. And that is exactly what ProperLy intends to do with its SaaS platform to make that happen from the perspective and the needs of the different players in this industry. And not just a box standard system that, optimizes document management, standard operating procedures, but goes beyond that by looking at what are the mega trends, ESG, environment, social governance, even from a perspective of a listed company or the end user like me, how can we optimize the environmental and health performance in our community by calibrating how we do things and how we build our homes and how we run our community. Waste management, huge issue in Malaysia. I still remember that guy that was loading up all the leaves from my condo into the back of his truck. I just asked the question, Bukit Daga. He said, yeah, that's a waste. There is all this beautiful biomass that could have been used for organic fertilizer, but it just goes with one truck to Bukit Daga. Can we connect different communities with one another to come up with ecological improvement like tree planting or joint gardening, organic community gardening, or using the biomass that you have in one condo for somewhere else? So sikit-sikit lama-lama jadi bukit, we need to use tools to improve. And that's what ProperLy is all about.
Wow, Matthias, I gotta say your Bahasa is very, very good. How long have you been in Malaysia actually?
It's just a couple of sound bites that sound very good, but when you dig deeper, but I was in Malaysia more than 10 years. So I lived in Malaysia and I love Malaysia. My wife is Filipina, but we both like Malaysia very much. So hopefully soon we will be back again after the pandemic. And I just gave a big talk for a very well-known airline in the region. And they gave me a couple of flight vouchers as a barter trade for doing their sustainability talk. So I'm ready to fly again, but I'll make it carbon neutral. Buy some carbon credits or plant some trees. So you can fly and have a positive experience without feeling guilty of hurting the planet.
Now I know why you are one of the panelists judged for Miss Earth as well, right? So Frank, you've been in Malaysia in 16 years as well, right?
That is correct, yeah.
How did you meet actually, and how did you both come up with this idea?
How I come up with the idea? Sorry, what was your first question, Priya?
How did you both meet in Malaysia?
Okay. A little bit of a story, but in principle, what happened was we were looking for new business opportunities to introduce into the Asian market. Long story, but in principle, I met my nephew who I didn't meet for 42 years online, purely by coincidence. He's in the IT industry. I'm in the IT industry all my life. So one and one became two, and we started bringing their product, which at that time was called Main Plus, and the system was called Main Flow. We brought that to Asia, and we had a joint venture together. That started all in 2014. We worked for a large project in the East Coast, in Malaysia. Very nice project, very huge. And we learned a lot there on how we could implement the structure that we really wanted to implement into Asia. Unfortunately, the joint venture came to an end. It was good for my nephew because they were bought over by a VC from Sweden. But this VC from Sweden didn't want to work with anybody outside of the European continent. So that made us end the joint venture in January 2020. We started ProperLy. So it's actually still the same company, it's still Main Plus, but we changed name. So that became ProperLy Asia, Sandir and Berhad. And that's also, they gave us a window of about 6 months to start building our own software systems and mobile applications. So in principle, we're only 18 months old as ProperLy. Once we started building our applications, within 3 months, we had our application ready to handle our current clients at that moment. And then after that, we started developing our mobile applications. And enhancing the system and adding more functionality to the system. So how we actually met is in that process of being in the construction and property industry in Malaysia. I was actually a guest in a conference here in Kuala Lumpur, organized by a large conference organizer.
Was it the ESG conference as well?
It was more about building defects, I think it was. And this is where Matthias actually was the moderator. And that's where we met, and we spent 2 days next to each other on one of the tables at the end, and we couldn't stop talking, like, more or less. So, you know, at a later stage when ProperLy became ProperLy and I had the full reins of the company, that's where we brought Matthias in as a shareholder to ensure that because I like his vision on the future, where we have to go. I mean, in the end, we don't live in a very healthy planet. And we as people, as communities, as businesses, as public listed companies, as small enterprises, we need to make changes. And that is from a company point of view, that's from an employee point of view. And as a community, we can do so much. So with our application, we can solve some of these issues, and we can address, and we can bring awareness, and we can add training, we can deliver programs, whether that's for the property developer or his staff, or for his contractors and suppliers, or for instance, for his community, his actually end users, the house owners of their projects. Yeah.
Now it totally makes sense why, you know, Matthias is sitting behind ProperLy's advisory board, because, and also, as I understand, right, correct me if I'm wrong, ProperLy is not like any other software companies, right? You guys are more towards the environment and working towards the greener living and so on. So how does this will translate to in terms of revenue and so on?
Okay. In terms of revenue, to us, it's a portion of what we do, and it's just added value at this moment. I think the real revenues of that portion of the business will be translated in the future. But it's also our intention to drive that rhetoric into the market to help property developers, because in the end, any property developer, is self-respecting property developer, is looking into ESGs, is looking into UN SDGs, and is looking at the goals that they want to set for the next 5 or 10 years. But then the question is how? And this is where we can help them with tools, with knowledge, with people that come from the industry, and can help them and assist them into, you know, to bring the goals that they are looking for. Because not every property developer might be looking at the same goals.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, when you look at the property industry, the carbon footprint of the industry is really separated to 2 aspects. One is the construction process itself, where the choice of the building materials that you use has a big impact on how is your carbon footprint. For example, if you build with concrete and steel, both together are responsible for about 13 to 14% of the world's carbon dioxide emission. Concrete alone has more than double of the CO2 emissions of all of the planes in the world together. Hardly anyone knows that, but when we manufacture concrete, cement, we are burning limestone, the beautiful limestone hills in Ipoh, right? Priya, can you remember what that was in chemistry, limestone, the chemical formula?
I'm not really a science person.
Yeah, you are into pitching, right? You're into
more
business.
into finance.
Yeah,
and
don't worry. Don't worry, you're forgiven. You're forgiven. I put you on the spot here.
Oh God, my chemistry teacher, if she's watching this, oh God.
Yeah, oh wow. It's calcium carbonate limestone, CaCO3. When we burn that, we are releasing the carbon dioxide into the atmosphere that was captured in the calcium carbonate in physical form. In addition, we are burning coal. Sometimes it gets a little bit better by using alternative fuels. Some of them are called refuse-derived fuels. And we are lowering the carbon footprint a little bit from the fuel side, but cement has a gigantic carbon footprint. There are new solutions like mass timber. It's not yet come to Malaysia, but it's happening in Singapore. It's happening in Europe, in North America. People are building homes from large-scale, sustainably planted forest products. And they're replacing cement and steel. And by that, you have a carbon sink, because the trees, when they were grown sustainably, have sequestered, absorbed the carbon dioxide. Steel and cement is the other way around. So this is the construction part, which is the immediate carbon footprint. But what ProperLy is initially focused on, and what is a big challenge, is the carbon footprint in operating our properties, running our properties, living in there, running our communities. That's even a larger carbon footprint if you look at the whole percentage of it. And that is where our decisions, our materials, our logistics, whether we use a standard aircon or we use a inverter aircon, all these things make a difference. The way your home was built in the first place. If you're in a nice place surrounded by a forest, I remember in Mount Kiara, there was one of my friends was living up on the hill there, surrounded with beautiful rainforest. And unfortunately, one a big timer chopped down most of the rainforest there on the hill, and the temperature went up. But when the rainforest was still there, you know, they were telling me they don't need aircon, they don't use aircon because nature itself has that cooling effect. So location and the way we build buildings, our natural air circulation, and this has to do with COVID as well. If you have an enclosed environment where you don't get fresh air in, and your cooling system recirculates the air, there's a high risk of COVID infection in indoor environments. You can use an indoor air quality monitoring device, measure your CO2 levels. Your CO2 level is a proxy of how much fresh air you have. Because we humans, we breathe in oxygen, we breathe out carbon dioxide, the opposite of photosynthesis. Sorry for bringing in some additional chemistry here. But, you know, bottom line is we focus on the operational part of running our buildings, our communities. And that's where we can make a lot of difference from a perspective of carbon footprint, waste. And we are talking about circular economy. We're talking about decarbonization, getting the carbon out of our products, our lifestyle, our logistics, everything. And in a way, I would say even, you know, we are edging towards carbon tech. And maybe we will even expand more on that, because carbon tech at the moment is the craze in Silicon Valley. The amount of money that has gone into carbon tech, I think last year it was 17 trillion of VC money has gone into carbon tech. So that's where a lot of investor attention is, because a lot of large companies, a lot of large developers are making commitments to climate neutrality. How are you going to deliver that for your buildings that you're building and for your communities that you are in charge of and that you are operationally running? So we need to build these tools into our systems to make it happen on the ground.
I give you another perfect practical example, right? Everybody that builds a landed or buys a landed property probably expects that the living room and the kitchen and his bathrooms are fully tiled, right?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. So now you move in. And then if I tell you that our data tells us that more or less from every 100 houses, within 18 months, 50 houses have a massive renovation go on, where the tiles go out, new tiles get installed. Yes. So as a house owner, you just paid for tiles that you're only going to be using for a couple of months. You rip it out, all the cement, all the waste needs to be disposed somewhere. And now we're going to put in new tiles. Couldn't that be fixed before the house was built? And that's where technology comes in to make sure that these processes run perfectly, and people would be paying for, I mean, in principle, to optimize the whole build process. Again, technology will solve that. And data is the driving force.
Yeah, or even selection of suppliers, right? You have your tiles there on the floor, and hacking is a crazy problem in condos. Right. And you know, are there suppliers that are there suppliers that can give you a solution for a floor without the need to hack anything. Those things exist, but not many people know about them. And even having that information on your fingertips, or who is a locally reputable contractor that's done other jobs and that has a rating in the system where I know when I get that person in to fix my bathroom leaking problem, I don't end up with more leaking and bigger bills. So, you know, these are all aspects that are very practical, but very important for people. And we can save a lot of money and a lot of time if we get this right.
Maybe something quickly to add to Priya is that for anybody watching at this moment that doesn't know ProperLy, most property developers go to 4 main stages. There is a stage of planning, there's a stage of construction, and there's a stage of marketing and sales, and then a stage of customer care. And customer care to me is endless. All the other stages are a fixed specific time frame, more or less, anywhere between 6 to 12 months or 18 to 24 months, depending on the different stage. ProperLy is fully focused towards customer care and customer services. So that's where we try to enhance. That's also where we collect the data that we then drive back into the system towards the people that do the planning for the property developer, to the people that do the construction. So that, for instance, mistakes that have been made in the past will not be repeated in the future, because every property developer has his next project planned already. So let's try to avoid all the issues from the past. But like Matthias highlighted early stage, that a lot of it is stored in paper and not even in proper data managed databases, so that you can obtain this data in the improvement. So this is where ProperLy really wants to make sure that our AI systems that are overlooking the data warehouse, what we call the data warehouse, are overlooking that data and finding patterns to identify all sorts of issues. Issues that could be with, for instance, staff, that could be corruption related. I mean, even the data there would identify that there are issues. So then, you know, human beings can then look into the actual issues that are there. So again, we sit on the moment the sale is made at the customer care, at the property developer. That's where we come in to take care of customer services for both property developers, joint management bodies, property maintenance companies. Yeah.
Are there any specific features that you would like to highlight that would, give our audience today a bit more, a bit more picture about what ProperLy is like? And are any of those features that aligns with our UN SDG goals at the moment?
Actually, I think from a feature point of view, I would like to invite anybody that is really interested to learn more about ProperLy. I would like to see the demo. Just get in contact with us on the pitch-in pages, or find us on the internet as properly.asia. Set up a demo and we show you all the features that we have under the hood, more or less. And we have a very deep development pipeline. I mean, it's not for nothing that a tech company like us are actually raising funds with Pitch-in. And we thank Pitch-in for the platform that you guys have provided, for the service that you guys have provided, and really giving us the opportunity to present ourselves to many audience in Malaysia, but also far outside of Malaysia. So thank you very much for the job that you guys have done on that part. So we're raising in Pitch-in to ensure that we can develop more functionality into the system. What we have currently is a basic system that would work for any property developer, where we handle your defects, where there's automation process in the defect management. There is an automated approval process. There are specific modules for supervisors, craftsmen, all the different users have different modules available to them. But we have a very large pipeline. At this moment, we have about 170 ideas, which translate in about 100 plus modules that we would like to build. For that, of course, we would be looking for funding so that we can continue driving our businesses. On the other hand, also keep developing new functionality. And interesting enough, I give you an interesting example. COVID-19 pandemic, year and a half ago, nobody had ever thought about contactless. I mean, it was something that some obscure company talked about, but now everybody's talking about contactless. For instance, visitor management, security management, guardhouse management, all of that are features that really have been driven by COVID-19, by the pandemic itself. We, a lot of users of buildings and suppliers of this kind of software, and I mean, we sit on the customer care side, but there are tons of different software solutions available nowadays. Give you another example. There's a software available now in Malaysia that allows that, which is fantastic. Is, for instance, digital signing. For signing documents, official documents, S&P, for instance, for a property developer, the sales and purchase agreement, you don't have to be in the same room. You can be in different places and you sign online, and that goes through a kind of a blockchain technology, and that's approved. So again, you don't have to drive. You don't have to have the contact. Again, that's COVID driven.
And do it in the middle of the night too.
Yes. So, you know, and I think the good thing about now, and for instance, 15 years ago, a company would buy some software, and he'd buy the software, but he would also buy all the hardware for all his stuff, all the computers, all the network, all the PCs, everything, the screens, everything was bought by the company. Nowadays, the infrastructure is there. Everybody runs around with an expensive Samsung or iPhone or any other brand in their pocket. They already paid for the infrastructure. Yeah. So the only thing that the property developer in this case, or our clients, potential clients, would do is actually tap into the software solution that is there and get to work and let it work for you. And interesting enough, the other day I had a long meeting with MDEC, and they actually indicated that the property and construction industry in Malaysia were the slowest one in adopting towards technology. And that's probably because these industries are very used to working with pen and paper. Excel spreadsheet is something that they're still used to. But to make that next step, I can understand sometimes the fear of a client to say, look, I have 30, 40 people depending on our system, and now we're going to transfer to something digital. So to me, the transfer to digital is always step by step. Don't give them the Ferrari tomorrow. Teach them in a Proton first. Yeah. Right? And then slowly upgrade to the next level. And that's a process. And of course, like a company like ProperLy, we don't just deliver the software. We deliver the service that comes with it as well. We deliver the training to make sure that everybody gets onboarded on the processes and understand everything that needs to be done to understand the software package as well. Yeah.
I think as well, one important thing to look at when it comes to the UN Sustainable Development Goals and ESG data and metrics is that different companies and different entities have different metrics that they use or have different objectives and targets. There's a lot of talk about low carbon cities. So even potentially from a regional or community or city perspective, you can apply some of these digitalized concepts, and you might have clear metrics on what you want to achieve. Putrajaya, for example, evaluated their buildings based on how much kilowatt hours per square meter does this building consume in electricity per year. Mm-hmm. And a very efficient building should be 100 or below. If you have 250 or more, that means your carbon footprint and your electricity bill is twice as high or more than the good classified building. So when it comes to metrics like electricity, it's fairly straightforward. When it comes to other metrics such as waste or logistics, like movement, transportation, you might need a more diversified approach. And there might as well be some adaptation to a customer's need. Let's say a big listed company wants to roll out this technology for a range of its different properties and communities, but once the metrics on ESG that the system gives aligned with their corporate reporting, like in Malaysia, we have certain requirements from the Bursa Malaysia for listed companies to report on sustainability and ESG data. Yeah. The Malaysian pension fund, remind me the name.
EPF, is it?
Yeah, EPF, yeah. They have already made an announcement that by 2030, all their holdings will be ESG compliant.
Yeah.
So whether you like this or not, this is happening large scale. And these metrics, the social and environmental indicators. And for the property sector, we are really looking at some key indicators such as the energy consumption, the carbon footprint, the water, the waste. We are looking at the social indicators. Wellness will be critically important in the future. Wellness has come to the forefront since we have been facing the pandemic, and we have realized the biggest risk of infection is indoors, because we are talking about an aerial transmission here. We've been obsessed with focusing on the surfaces, but actually the biggest risk is the aerial transmission of the droplets. And then it comes down to how well is your place ventilated, and or do you have the technology to get rid of those droplets if they are in the air. And these are things that are going to get more and more important as we go on. And I think one vision that we have with ProperLy as well is to have a certain flexibility on the ESG metrics to be able to tailor them to the needs of our clients. If somebody comes in and really wants a specific development based on their macro ESG metrics, we have the knowledge, we have the understanding and the capability. We can help with that, which other standard software solutions cannot, because they don't even understand this part of the industry yet.
Now, I'm really curious, right? ProperLy is definitely way ahead of its time. It's one of the software company that I know it's way ahead of its time currently in Malaysia, right? But Frank, you mentioned earlier you have more than 100 products in the pipeline. Would you like to mention a few that that would probably be that we would be interested in?
Yes, sure. In principle, like I said, we have at the moment a standard package that can handle a lot for a property developer. And we have, apart from, if I look at what some of the software of our competitors does, there's very little automation behind, for instance. We worked a lot on the actual automation. Give you an example, right? For instance, on defect management. You can take a form, and that form comes to you with the defect mentioned by the house owner, and that needs to be rectified. We build an automatic system behind it that actually identifies immediately if there's an emergency, like for instance, water related, or if a door cannot be locked, that means the house cannot be locked. Then there is an emergency. So we straight away deploy somebody to fix that. These kind of things have been automated. But also we have automated other items based on, for instance, defects. We would deploy straight away a craftsman to ensure that the right craftsman is deployed, so that not the painter shows up, but actually the plumber had to show up, kind of thing. This kind of mistakes get made, yeah, by humans. So in principle, that from that specific part, we have a lot of automation within the system, and we're constantly working on these kind of modules to actually enhance the automation. Then the next stage, actually, this new part of the development is where we actually start building in our AI, so our artificial intelligence modules that start looking at our data, and that starts to identify patterns that we as humans have a hard time identifying, unless you would have a data analyst. Now, which property developer has a data analyst only looking at the data of your defects? Probably none here, right? So maybe, and if there is, then maybe only a handful. So now we have automated systems where we can actually deploy AI on specific metrics. So that's one. Further, currently, we're working on a new system for, I give you an example. Currently, food riders.
Yeah.
Guardhouses pulling their hairs out because they've never seen so many motorbikes, right? Yeah. And they all go to different places, and they sometimes bring more than one package for a specific condominium, or so what we at the moment we're building on is a tracking system. So we actually can track that rider if he's really dropping off at the addresses where he's supposed to go. Is he not hanging around in the condominium, et cetera, et cetera. So this kind of things we actually adding to our systems. Then we got a whole bunch of things towards our eco and environment and sustainability effort, both for the property developer, but also for the house owner. So for instance, we want to do a lot of these awareness programs, training programs, and get the community to work together to make them aware of the opportunities, using our software to actually deploy these activities. And it just needs only a few people to make a whole community go. And software can do that because we can help them to communicate their message very quickly. Yeah, that kind of things we are currently building in. Yeah.
That's very exciting, actually.
Yeah, something else that I'm actually very excited about is what we call dynamic dashboards. We have learned one thing, that one client wants to look at one part of the business processes, but another client wants to look at it at another part of the business processes. So different metrics are important for different property developers or for different clients. So how do you deal with that? Because most systems come with one set dashboard. So we build dynamic dashboards based on the requirements from the client. We can let them see what they want. And if they want for the supervisor team completely different metrics than, for instance, for their front desk or even for their marketing team, why would the marketing team not be looking into opportunities that are happening within the community? So we can give the marketing team even access to marketing in general is not involved in the customer care service part of the business process. Yeah. But if we can give them insights, then there is new opportunities, new streams of revenue that might not have been detected yet. Interesting one at the moment, we're building a new module specifically for overhang. Overhang is unsold units. So to help the property developer to make sure that these unsold units are actually known by their own community, because sometimes your customers are nearer than you think.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, go on.
Matthias?
Yeah, the scenario that I was just thinking of, there is the marketing guy sitting there with their beautiful model of the condo, and they've advertised on the outside, oh, it's going to be green condo, eco-friendly condo. And then the green man comes in and asks them, oh, so what's green about your condo? I saw outside you have a lot of, you say, wow, this green, that green. So how to do? And then they are sitting there and they don't know what to say because nobody else has asked them that question before. And the marketing people tend to be more focused on, the price and the location and the typical stuff that has been pitched in the past. So I think that's as well an opportunity here with information flow, fast information flow available on your fingertips in the sense of the dashboard as and per what the situation really requires. And just imagine, you have a listed company that has a meeting with the EPF fund managers who are reviewing their sustainability performance. And then they can show them the dashboard that outlines the environmental and social relevant metrics that are outlining their performance against the targets, the KPIs that they have set, supported by the system. That should be quite impressive, because sometimes there's a disconnect when you look at listed companies between what they report in their sustainability report and what they are operationally doing on the ground, because it hasn't been properly integrated. But that's how you drive performance improvement. If you integrate it, if you make it available, if you drill down on the detail, and if you have facilities management and HR having metrics that are aligned with what's going on the ground.
I like your pun over there, though. Properly integrated.
Yeah, I would like to add.
Yeah, go on.
I would like to add something to that. I just had a very interesting experience. Fairly large condominium. We were invited to do a demonstration, so I meet with the customer care team and the head of the customer care and his workers, and we do a demonstration. And the guy is a bit restless. So the manager, he's a bit restless. And I think, why is he so restless? And then at the end of the meeting, the other staff had already left, so he just stayed around for a bit. And he said, Mr. Frank, I like your system. It's beautiful, but I miss one button. I said, okay. I said, we can create that for you. What button would that be? He said, I need to be able to create an Excel spreadsheet. I said, but why? I said, all your data is already there. It's in your hand. No, no, no. I need to manage. I need to be able to manipulate it for management team.
Oh.
So you understand. So if that is the thinking of the middle management, I understand that the top management want things more cost efficiently, more efficiently, improvements in the whole workflow, I would say, to optimize and make that more efficient. However, if the middle management still keeps this old thinking cap on, then we're going nowhere. And in the end, I think that Malaysia is en route. I mean, at least that's the narrative I hear all the time, to become a high income nation. So that also means that, we have to change the mindset sometimes, where everybody should be looking at the same data. That means there is no mistakes. Everybody looks at the same data, whether you're top management or whether you're front desk or you're a supervisor, everybody is looking at the same. And this is where, as a solution provider, because sometimes we say we're a software company, but actually we're not. We're a solution provider. And with confidence, we can say that we can improve the efficiency rate of a property developer and reduce cost for more than 25 to 30% over that doesn't happen within the first 2 or 3 months, but that happens within the next 12 months. We can definitely aim for 20 to 30% in cost reductions.
That's actually quite impressive, actually.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure many of the listed companies would love to work with ProperLy. Would that be an issue currently with the current system? Would that be able to, properly be integrated into any listed companies? Do you see that happening soon?
We would. I mean, we're not. I wouldn't say we haven't. We don't have a public listed client yet. It's not true. Our previous client, one of our previous clients, was public listed, but they went private again. But and we worked for other public listed companies before we worked with ProperLy. Or before we became ProperLy. But in principle, for me, it doesn't matter if they're public listed or they're an enterprise or something about it. To me, that should not be, that should not make the difference. Whether a property developer delivers 5 or 15,000 units to us, or only 50, they're both welcome, and we would treat them with the same respect as being clients.
It's amazing. Okay. Do you want to go into more about your offer, Frank?
Yes.
Away from the product.
Yeah.
I understand you have a bit of bonus in shares incentive to announce.
Correct.
For our audience today.
Sorry, yes. Okay, let me give you a little bit of the gist of what's happening at the moment. So if you have seen our presentations in Pitch-In before, because we, once you start working with Pitch-In, you set up an investors deck, and that was probably set up, the first investors deck was probably set up about 3 or 4 months ago once we applied with Pitch-In. But in the meantime, we can see that because of COVID-19, the pandemic, there's a lot of pressure in the market. And we had a long discussion with a very large company in Malaysia, where we actually started to realize to play the old game, high volumes, low margins, is actually not going to work. I'll give you an example. I'll be honest, I'll give you an example. About 2 years ago, the prices per unit for every property developer was about 2 ringgit, 2 ringgit 50, okay? So if you have a property developer, a client with 1,000 units, you could make about 2 ringgit 50 per month per unit, depending on what type of software that you were delivering. Currently, these prices have dropped well below 1 ringgit, and that's only 2 years. So what's going to happen in the next 2 years? Is it going to drop more? It's not going to increase, because normally if the industry takes this path, this spiral downward, then it's not going to go back upward. Okay, the COVID pandemic, us coming out of the COVID pandemic is not going to change that. So that's number one. Number two, then I'm talking to a property developer that shows me a software system that he buys at 3 cents per unit.
Okay.
How can we make money? How is that even possible? How can the company even deliver software at these prices? So in principle, what has changed in the last couple of months, we had very thorough discussions within the team, is that we step away from this pure software, selling software idea, where we much more going to become service driven. And actually that's exactly how MainPlus started 2014, as we were buying out maintenance from property developers. The only thing that we did differently from what we do today is at that time, we actually bought the whole maintenance, including all the supervisors, all the craftsmen, all that work that came with it. We had some smaller projects, we had some larger projects, but all of it came with us. Now, I give you an example of efficiency that we just spoke about. In the beginning, when we started a project, we had 3 supervisors, we had 24 craftsmen, and we had 5 people in the office. Within approximately 1 year, about 9 to 10 months, we reduced to 1 supervisor, 14 craftsmen, and only 3 people in the office. Can you imagine the reduction just in staffing cost?
Yeah.
It's huge. Yeah. So these kind of opportunities are there. Just, again, the efficiency is brought by the system. So coming back to the actual offer is that at this moment, we are working on a new product that we're going to launch on the 15th of August. So that's going to be in a couple of days time, more or less, so in 2 weeks time. And we're going to offer property developers a buyout option of their whole customer care center. So that is a new product that we will be addressing. And anybody that we have been in contact with or anybody watching this, do get in contact with us. We will send you the information or we do a demonstration of what we are trying to achieve. Now, let us come back down then to the actual offer that is on the table from a pitching and investors point of view. So currently we are raising 800,000 ringgit in pitching. That is 10% of our actual company value. So we were pre-money, we evaluated 7.2 million. So currently, this is the offer for any property developers listening to this, this presentation, or if you know anybody that's a property developer or a joint management body or a maintenance company that works for property developers, do show them this. For any of our new clients coming in, doing an investment in pitching, we give a 6-month free use of all software services. So that means you get a whole backend system. That means that all your staff can work on their laptops and their desktops. And we give a mobile application to all your house owners. So that means now at least the communication straight away is going to be optimized. So 6 months of free use if you do an investment in ProperLy through the pitching platform. And I think that stands until today, right?
Stays until 14th of August.
14th
so
of August.
On
okay.
the 15th, you are launching the new product. So
correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That works out perfectly.
So in principle, we just, for anybody that has seen us on pitching before, they knew that we actually the cutoff date was today, but we extended with another 2 weeks, which is great. I think that's a good thing to do. By the way, last week, Wired magazine in the United States, one of the largest electronics and gadget magazines, actually said very sharply in a very nice, beautiful article that there is no better time to invest in PropTech than today. I mean, and again, it's COVID driven, part of it is COVID driven. Then for any other investors that are here today and are interested to pick us up on our offer, we give you anywhere between 2 and 12% in bonus shares, depending on the amount invested.
Okay, that's amazing. Yeah. So your very last bonus shares offer, grab it now. Matthias, do you have anything to add on to as an advisor to ProperLy? Do you have anything to add on to how do you see outlook for ProperLy at the moment? How do you see ProperLy in 5 years?
I would want us to go international, particularly with our ability to deliver the sustainability and ESG aspects of the property sector. I think we have a huge growth opportunity there. Malaysia, and this is good, is already focusing on this, particularly the financial sector. As I mentioned, the EPF is saying everything must be ESG compliant by 2030. So the fact that we are a front runner in this area will help us to grab the opportunities locally and internationally. And this is where the growth is gonna be. Not competing with everybody else on the same kind of services, but really going into spaces where that represent the mega trends of today and tomorrow. That's where we want to be. That's where we want to contribute. And, you know, I only get involved in things where later on, bottom line, I can see this helps the planet, this helps the people. We need the triple or the quadruple bottom line, or the triple or quadruple P, There must be purpose, there must be people, there must be planet, and there must be profit. We need to combine those things with one another. And that's what I want to see happen with ProperLy. And that will be the fuel for our growth, because it's more than just a solution like everything else. It's a solution that will contribute to the healing of the planet and the improvement of people's life in a sustainable and profitable way.
I'm sure our audience today as well share the same passion and opinion towards our ESG movement, because we have wonderful comments down in our Facebook chat, in our comment section. And Frank, before we go, as last question, you were recently elected as the VP for PropTech Association. Can you tell us more about that, and how would that benefit your, you being in as a CEO of ProperLy? Sorry.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for highlighting that, actually. I didn't even put that in the notes. But yes, so about 2 weeks ago, I was elected as the VP for Marketing and PR for the Malaysia PropTech Association, an active association with about 50 members within the PropTech sphere. The last 2 weeks, I don't know what's happening, but sometimes I think it must be part of what my team is doing at the moment. We have a new member every single day. We're voting for a new member to come in. It's absolutely crazy. So it's about 50 plus members, all within the PropTech sphere. And the PropTech sphere is much more than property management. There is companies that do rental of units. There are companies involved in blockchain, in digital signing, in construction, contact. There's such a wide variety of different companies and services. Fantastic. So I'm really proud to actually take on that post for the next 2 years. How it will affect us, I don't know. It costs at this time, it costs a bit of time. But definitely one of the things that I see, and we're not shy of partnerships. I can see that a lot of our PropTech friends and partners within the Malaysia PropTech Association will, either we are onboarding them, their services into our system. That's the beauty of the way our system is built. More or less, we can integrate with any type of software, with any type of system. So we definitely will see that happening in the near future. And I think from that part, if we're going to be benefiting, not so much, I think it's much more our customers are going to be benefiting from that. There's something else as well. I spoke just now about that. There's 4 main fields of a property developer, or concerns of a property developer when he's developing. That's his planning, his construction, his marketing and sales, and his customer services. Now, many property developers spend the money on, of course, their construction part, and of course, their planning part. But the majority of the money is actually spent in marketing and sales, because that's where they make the money. So often this customer service part is a little bit overlooked. And we see that also in the quality delivered. I wouldn't say that from all property developers. Some property developers have a top-notch service, but in general, the general trend is it's not that well organized. And it comes because there's no money, not that much money spent in that specific area. Now, what we want to do as ProperLy is we want to integrate planning, construction, marketing, and sales into our system. We're not going to build that. That's where we work together with, for instance, a digital twinning company, a company that can bring a software package that integrates with our system, where they build cities, areas, precincts, and whole buildings, and based on specific data for either the city or data available for a specific area. And we have all the data available from the end user point of view, the house user, and we can drive that data back into the digital planning stage, which then, of course, ends up in a better construction, hopefully in better sales and marketing, and hopefully in better customer care. So in our case, we always speak about resident satisfaction. So what we believe is that resident satisfaction empowers communities. And if we get that circle around, then we're on track.
Wow. So this is just the beginning then.
Yes,
absolutely. Many more
we just begun. We just begun.
We look forward to having you on Pitch-In again and again for the subsequent round. Right now, Frank from ProperLy is raising 800,000 on Pitch-In, and he is almost en route to meet his minimum target. The offer for bonus shares will be, and also the 20% premium on the product and services will be ending on the 14th of August, and that's the last day of his campaign. So do join us. The minimum to invest into ProperLy right now is 2,000. So please do check out his web platform on our page. Maybe I could share my screen quickly to show you. Yeah. So, okay, just log in as an investor on www.equity.pitchin.my and click on Pitch Info and invest now, right? Yeah, and you'll be receiving an email that would walk you through all the instruction on how you can bank in and transfer, right? So it's as simple as that. So invest now and get a hold of your bonus shares. Thank you, Matthias. Thank you very much for joining us today. And I have definitely love your green batik shirt. Friend, you got to have one too.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's 10 years old already, but still very eco-efficient. And bought in Malaysia. Bought in Malaysia.
Just like you, the green man.
Thank you. Thank you. Great to be with you today.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye. See you guys.
Thanks, everybody. I enjoyed my Teh Tarik review. See you next time.
We have a chat. Someone said Frank needs an orange batik shirt.
Oh, yes. Okay. Okay, no worries.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks again.
Okay. Bye.